So she comes to the prison, and he is doing healings on her. And finally, one day, she said, St. Valentine, do you think if you love and you pray deep enough that anything can happen? And of course, this man of great love and faith says, of course I do. And the next day he was put to death, and he sent a letter to her, just telling her goodbye and how much he loved her. And the miracle is that when she opened it, she could see, and she read the letter. Well, her dad read it to her, but, you know. And at the end, he said, "You're Valentine." So that's really what love is for, right? It's huge, and it's to heal. And, you know, it's so interesting that Valentine's Day falls in the middle of Aquarius, because Aquarius is not our strong suit, intimacy. And I know as an Aquarian, if you have Aquarians that use that as an excuse, bat them upside the head, you know. Never use your astrological sign for being an asshole, okay? It's like, you know, it's so not cool. So, but you always will have, so Aquarius wants to love everybody, so they're always, in any situation, whether it's, you know, your humanity, numerology, astrology, whatever, there's always the polarity. That's why it exists. So because the Aquarius has this kind of predisposition, whenever you kind of think you have that mindset, how does it affect everyone? The polarity would be that you can't be concerned with like the one person in front of you. And I know that Tony and Treasure have felt that. Well, you were just nice to 20 people when you taught. How come you're such a jerk now, you know? Well, because I'm an Aquarius. No, so don't do that. So the thing is this whole thing with Valentine's and love, we're going to talk about love, is because it is hard. And we get to practice in our love affairs, whether it's the love affair with a child or a love affair. I definitely have a love affair with my job. I love what I do for a living. It's a love affair. A love affair with our mates, for sure, right? And all of that gives us opportunities to see the places that we are glorious and where we need work. That's what they're there for. And when we are blessed enough, we start to realize, okay, I've got to take a moment and start to love me. And when we start to do that, that's when the cup runneth over, right? You know, Yogi Bhajan, I was just reading, there's this book called The Mind, which is really good. And he really talks about consciousness a lot. And consciousness is not your soul. It is not your mind. It's kind of like a matrix. It's an energy that is constantly existing. And you can tell that consciousness, it's like, I guess in a way, it almost feels like consciousness is God. Because consciousness is trying to have an expression in everything, right? And the reason I bring it up is he talks a lot about this in the book called The Mind. And sometimes in our spirituality, we think we are going to subdue the mind or get rid of the ego. And that is not, first of all, ever going to happen. And secondly, that's not the payoff. That's why I love Kundalini Yoga. He wants you to be friends with your mind. And not only that, master it. And the only way to have mastery over your mind is to let go. You know, Amanda and I were just talking about a character defect we both have. And isn't this the way it is? It will get really in your face. You'll have an amazing experience. There'll be a transcendence. You'll think, I've got it. Ah! And the angels sing, right? And 2 months later, you're doing that thing. I totally know what enlightenment it is. You know what it is? When you don't act surprised when that happens. Now you're on to something. You know, when you have this deep, so I'm not there, but I'm considering taking it up. What I'm inviting for me is when the things that bug me the most about me come up again, that I honor it. And that I love it. Exactly. And that, isn't it true that is how my soul is getting leverage and working things out and making me a better person. Isn't that true? And so one of the words that that is really good, rather than gratitude, being grateful for, appreciation. One of the English translations of the Japji uses the word appreciation over and over. There's a part where it goes listening, listening, listening. Then there's this whole section where it goes appreciate, appreciate. And when it does the appreciation section, of course, it's appreciate. I love you. I'm so glad you're here. You're visiting. There's 2 girls that have been missing, and they're here. I appreciate that. Anyway, so appreciating is really seeing the value of why this is happening. And, you know, how I find I get better at appreciating things that suck is being very conscious of appreciating that which is easy to appreciate first. Really be like appreciating my iPod and iTunes because I get to get all these cool songs and play them for you. You know, like that's so easy to appreciate. Appreciating Guru Ratana because she wrote this cool book and we're going to do a heart kriya. Appreciating all this. I appreciate my little lambskin that I've been sitting on for years. You know, appreciate it. And then when I stub my toe, walking out the door, carrying the tea and blah, blah, appreciation. You know, you have enough, you've got the juice going, and you start to be able to appreciate that's what's hard. Now, that's just a little inconvenience, right? The trip or whatever. You appreciate, and you get in that zone. Because what it is it's an appreciation for life itself. You will develop that spiritual muscle one day, that when cancer, death, sorrow comes, although you will be on your knees and feeling it because you appreciate being a human, God bless you for feeling it, you will also appreciate that there is goodness and love in this situation that is bringing highest and good to everyone around you. Doesn't mean you're in it right that second. But you are in the zone of appreciation. You've done it so long. There's only one way to go, and that's open and up from love, right? But we start with where we're at. And we also appreciate when we can appreciate. You know, it's like this really deep dive into what Valentine's Day, this time of love, this season, I mean, it can make you throw up. Or we appreciate that love starts right here. And we love the people that is easy to love first. And then you just make that conscious effort. I'm going to extend out. And I think that the biggest thing about our Kundalini practice is that it is the yoga of awareness. You know, it's wonderful that it is the technology of happiness, but the biggest thing that Yogi Bhajan stated and talked about the most was yoga of awareness. So the more we know who we are, there's different ways in which we can love people, right? Like, it may be the most loving thing you can do is to not engage with somebody. And, you know, I love this. Guru Jagat just did a talk on this, and I have always believed what she said, and this is what it is. She goes, you know you know. I don't think we ever really don't know. So don't come to counseling with me if you think I'm going to go, oh, yeah, you don't know. That won't happen. I believe we all know what we're supposed to do. And we don't do it, and that's okay. Let's be with that. But, like, you don't accidentally go somewhere and say the wrong thing. You don't. You know. Sometimes we can't pull it off, what we know is the right thing, and that's so be present with that and love yourself in that. But you always know. It's like when I was going to sign up for the Hatha Sundara, you know, back in 2006, right? I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I should. I knew. I freaking knew. I just didn't necessarily want to spend the money. And I didn't necessarily, you know, I wanted to have like some kind of guarantee, like what would happen if I do. You know, it's all that stuff. But did I know that was the next indicated thing? Absolutely. So that's part of love, is knowing and trusting you. That is the biggest acknowledgement of love for yourself. And here's what I want you to also know. So instead of acting like you don't know, because I'm a chicken, so I know how you feel. Okay, so I know what you should do instead. I'll give you a tip. You just admit it, So when I knew it was time to finally let go of state fund, I felt like I had like my toes gripped on state fund and the whole rest of my body was falling out of it. It was so uncomfortable. But you know what I finally did? I just broke down and cried. And I looked in Tony's eyes and I said, I'm never going to leave. I should leave, but I'm not. I know I'm too afraid. That's the way it is. Let's move on. And then I said, God help me. If you can pull this off, because I'm really stubborn, I'm open to it. But at this point, I know what I should do, and I am not going to do it. Then the universe goes, there you go. That's the truth. Right? It's when we just get real. It doesn't mean we can do whatever. We just say. And that is the deepest love. And sometimes, like in St. Valentine's story, this is why we have this Kundalini tribe. We attract people who can do it for us. That's what he did for her, right? She says, St. Valentine, do you think if somebody could love and believe enough, they could see? And so he believed and loved. She had it. She wouldn't ask that question if she didn't have it, right? But that's that soul friendship we have. He looked at her and he took it on. Absolutely. We're afraid to do that sometimes, right? When your kids go, do you think, Mom, blah, blah, blah. That's a hairy thing. It's like, but you gotta just go, yes, honey. If you just go and try, and it's scary when we do that for each other, but boy, that's the Valentine. That's the moment when we are really there for each other. It's like that story, it's like so funny how now I read stories or listen to stories that I used to listen to when I was young and, going to the Catholic Church. And now I hear them in totally a different way. You know that story about the woman she had that bad disease and she was bleeding all over and she just got into her head. She knew Jesus was coming to town that day. And she just got in her head, somehow she was going to crawl her way out there. Somehow she was going to get out there. And she was going to touch him. And she just knew she was going to be healed. Now, before, when I was young, it was all about Jesus. But now when I hear the story, this is all about her. It's all about her. So she decided, and she, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, and she's trying to and she finally gets right there to the edge of the crowd, and he's passing by, and she just reaches out and touches his robe. Now, this is, I think, phenomenal. And he goes, what just happened? Who just touched me? Now, who's the one that's making a miracle here? It's her. Her belief, where she couldn't even walk, dragged her from her bed that day, got her to the edge of the crowd. She decided, and she'd been deciding for a while then, I'm going to be there that day, I'm going to touch him, and I'm going to be healed. She had it freaking going on. Right? And so it was so big that an avatar like him, who's in the midst of all these people who want something, stops in his tracks and goes, who just touched me? And of course, she's just this lady. She's like, oh, God, did I do something wrong? Oh, shit, But it was like, that's the thing. That's who we are. Right? And that's the dance. Like he doesn't end up to be Jesus. He doesn't have a bunch of people like that dance with him. That's who we are with each other. Will you be my Valentine? That's why when we're little kids, we don't really pick one Valentine. We do the whole class. Why not? The odds are so much better. So we're talking about love this week. So today and Wednesday and Saturday. And so normally in Kundalini, you are never supposed to play things that aren't mantra. But we're going to play some love songs. And I'm going to sing you a love song. A song that when I was 9 years old, I started playing it. I believe it has created the love of my life. I think it's a mantra. But what I want to invite us all to do is only a few times these songs are going to come on. We're going to do one right in the beginning that's not necessarily a love song. It's called I Lived. And it's really about asking you, are you willing to jump? Just live, right? But today, when we hear the love songs, really direct it towards you. At last, right? My lover's come along.